One of the biggest problems that I see a lot of people making is that they're not very good with controlling their money in separate bank accounts. They treat their one bank account or their business bank account like a personal account. Why is this? Well, they've never actually been taught the best ways to actually manage their money in different bank accounts. So I'm going to give you those tips today. And also, I'm going to give you 3 different ideas of new bank accounts that you really need to get set up. And the third one will really surprise you as well. Stay tuned. Welcome, A players. Ladies and gentlemen, the A players out there. What is an A player? An A player is somebody that understands that there is full potential waiting for them as long as they choose to step up and be in that A player mindset, that A player game more often. You're listening to the A Players podcast, and I imagine that you are the followers and subscribers already. But if you're not, you can check in and watch this on YouTube as well as listen in on Spotify, and also Spotify exclusives as well. So you can actually watch this video on Spotify too. Or you might be listening on iTunes, whatever fits you best. Doesn't matter. You're going to get the same content. And the content today is talking about how you start to use your money more wisely. Yeah, more wisely, so you can make the best returns on that money. Okay, so what we're going to talk about? Well, you may be thinking, Lewis is going to be talking about investing today. Hey, look, I am an investor. I use the money that I have what's the right word for it? Have gained, have saved, if you like. I don't like the word save. That's why I got lost for words. I have used that money to reinvest into things like this podcast. Things like this podcast to build a better future for the people that I want to be around me. That includes myself, my family, the people that come on the journey, the A players just like you. New investments all the time go into new things. Well, why is that? Because I have that investment mentality. You see, a lot of people just treat their bank accounts as though, hey, there's some cash there. It's my money. And then if the people do start a business, which is a very wise thing to do because of tax advantages for business owners as well. And look, how much does it cost you to start a business? In the UK, it's £10 to start a business up. Okay. And that then can start to be used in a way that you can start to keep your cash flow into that business so you can then reinvest it in the future. But let's talk about you guys as personal bank accounts, okay? So that anyone can have, not just business owners. What are the best bank accounts around the world that you guys need if you're going to start to build wealth? Well, number one, of course, I'm not going to talk about your current account. I'm assuming that you already have that current account and you're happy with it. The current account is where you just keep your cash. It's where you get paid, okay? The challenge with this current account is that it has no savings interest on it. So if you put anything into a normal account, when inflation happens, the money doesn't get any better in your normal account if there's no interest happening on that account. So this is a quick in and out account. That's how it needs to be used. Yeah, it pays for your groceries, it pays for your bills. It's in and out, right? So don't keep it in that current account, whatever you do. Okay. So the first account that we need to really be thinking about is how do you start to get the savings that you are keeping to beat inflation? And most likely, they're not going to beat inflation in today's world. But at least you can tackle inflation. So try and find a savings account that is quite flexible for you to access. Yeah. Unless you're saving for something, you can put it away in a 1 year, 2 year account and you can't access it for a while, but it'll have better interest rates. Or you can have something that's quite flexible with still quite a good interest rate on it. Okay. So I'm not going to give the percentages. By the time that people watch this video over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, interest rates will be shifting. So you want to try and get the best interest rate you can on a savings account. That's number one, your savings account. Number two is, look, no matter what you do as a high income earner, and that's what we're talking about on the A Players podcast, because if you are making a bigger impact, you're going to be paid for it as well. When you start to make money, no matter what happens, there's 2 things in life that are certain: death and taxes. So you're going to get taxed. So the second account that you really need to be thinking about is an ISA account. You see, an ISA account has tax advantages. So you don't get taxed as much on the money that you make, and it'll go into an account where you can save up to a certain amount per year, and that will then start to be, you can do what you want with it. There's different sorts of ISAs. There's a savings ISA, there's an investment ISA. For those people that are into the share markets and the stocks and shares, you can actually create an ISA which you can then use that money in there to invest in. Okay, makes sense? Well, why not? Why not have an account, right? Here's the question for you. Look, Lewis, I haven't got around to doing an ISA. I have got a savings account to put some money in there. If you've got a savings account, then you should be using the savings ISA as well, because you're going to get taxed on that savings. That savings will earn interest and you'll get taxed on it. Everything will get taxed on. An ISA is there for you to have a tax advantage of how you can start to manage your money in a better way. There is a limit on it, however, so that is one of the drawbacks from it. But most likely, look, if you can put, in the UK, it's £20,000. If you can put £20,000 away every year into that account, by the time that, let's say you're 20 years old, by the time you're 50, just think about the compound effect on that. You're talking millions, right? You're talking millions. So what is the third one? Now, the third one will probably surprise you. It is another savings account, okay? It's another savings account, and this is A Player exclusive. Look, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just here to share some ways of how you can start to scale up and become an A player and earn a lot more money as well. So the reason I'm talking about this podcast, why is Lewis talking about this on a podcast? Why is he talking about bank accounts, right? Why can't I just go and watch some other millionaire talk about bank accounts? Because here's what they won't tell you in the other YouTube videos. And if this resonates with you, by the way, anything you're about to hear, smash the like button and click share and share it with somebody that really needs to hear this. Thank you for listening to the podcast so far. A quick reminder that the A Players podcast and community remains free. The reason we do this podcast is because I believe that a great question to ask is, what advice would you give your younger self? For me, I wish I had a guide that showed me the exact steps to reach 100k a year in any job, and how much my life would be accelerated if I'd cut through that noise and just focused on those steps. We do not run ads or endorse sponsors, because it is our mission to give back and share with you, the listener, knowledge gained from working with highly successful individuals and extensive research in management science, so that everyone has access to tools that can accelerate their income and give them the opportunity to step into wealth. In line with allowing us to achieve that mission, we ask that you think about, how did you end up on this podcast today? Maybe it was through finding it on YouTube or Spotify or word of mouth. So please help feed forward by subscribing to the podcast, and also share this podcast with another leader like you that you feel this podcast could really help out in helping them increase their personal income too. Let's get back to the show. That third bank account, the savings that's in it, you're going to spend. Well, it's not savings then, Lewis. Well, look, it's in a flexible savings account, right? It's in a flexible savings account, so it's making the interest that you know that it can best possibly make. But what you're going to do is use that money to reinvest, not invest in stocks and shares or property or businesses, even though I am a business investor. Yeah, you can do. But what I tend to do is create a business that then invests, because there's different ways of doing it. It depends if you want to be a personal investor or invest as a business. I prefer to invest as a business because of my goals and where I want to head to. We can talk about that in another podcast. If you're interested in that, leave a comment to say business investing, and we can talk about that. If I keep getting enough recognition for it, enough comments about that, then I'll create that podcast as well. So yeah, this was a request from a previous podcast saying, Lewis, can you talk about the different bank accounts? So here we go. This third bank account then, yes, it's a savings account, but you are going to spend it. So it needs to be flexible. And if you don't spend it, at least it's making some good interest that tackles inflation, right? For example, if inflation is 6% and you've got a savings account that's 3%, you're losing out on 3%. If you're keeping a current account, you're losing out on 6%, the whole lot. Make sense? So the reason that you're going to use this account is not to invest in the other three things I just mentioned. It's to invest in you. This is your personal investment, yeah? Because no matter where you go in the world, and this is something I learned when I used to live in Australia and traveling around Australia, doing all the different coaching I was doing over there and growing businesses over there. And then I'll come back to the UK and I'll be in the UK for like 6 months, and then over in Australia and everywhere I was going. No matter where you go, there you are. Right. So if you have a bank account in Australia, you need one in the UK. If you have a bank account in America, you'll need one in, India, whatever it may be. Yeah, Middle East, Dubai, whatever. Right. No matter where you go, though, there you are. So what does that mean? If you invest in you, you're investing in your body, yeah, the character, the person that carries you through life, this vehicle that carries you through life. And that is primary, because no matter what happens, if you learn the right stuff and develop the right skills, then you will go through life being able to tackle any brick wall that you come up against. You will also be able to spot opportunities that others don't. Yeah. So your own learning, and I don't, using the word learning is a strange one because people think school. Yeah. Oh, I learned a lot at school. Well, look, you learn the alphabet at school. Yeah. You learn grammar at school. You learn to count at school. How often do you use those skills now in your everyday life? It's just a given, right? What about if you were to carry on learning and you were, for example, if you're going down a motorway and you see a road sign, you can read that road sign to know that, oh, there's something interesting over there, or that's the direction you should be going. But if you never learned to read, you would never know that was the right direction for you to go. So you'd just completely miss the opportunity. What about if you was walking down, again, driving down a road and you saw a big sign saying, here's £1,000,000 or $1,000,000 if you're listening in different countries. There's $1,000,000. And you didn't know what $1,000,000 was. Yeah, you never learned to count, or you didn't realize the value of money. You'd just go straight past it. So the opportunity, because you haven't learnt that stuff, you don't spot the opportunities. So the reason why I say this third account might surprise you is because we don't want to be keeping that much money in it. Lewis, but you said you was going to tell me about wealth. Wealth doesn't come from holding money. Here's the key quote for this podcast. Wealth doesn't come from holding money. And this is going to like really disturb a lot of people's beliefs around money, because we are brought into, I mean, I was listening to some random stuff that Spotify was playing on my podcast whilst I was in the gym this morning, and it's talking about millionaire, be this millionaire, and it's some shit. I turned it straight off after a while because it was just talking shit. Yeah, and people follow a lot of people on YouTube and Instagram that talk about being a millionaire. Right, there was an episode on a TV show last night, and there was house swapping, and the person was a millionaire. But when you actually listen to that person, he's not talking about being a millionaire, because being an actual millionaire is owning the assets of a millionaire, right? If you've got £1,000,000 in the bank, which poor people think is the way to go, that's stupid. Yeah, because one, you're going to get taxed a lot of money on it if you actually receive it as an income. And then secondly, why the fuck would you just hold on to £1,000,000 of a 3% savings rate? So it just becomes nothing as inflation gets higher. Here's the secret. Cash flow is what you need to be thinking. If money stays still, it gets stagnant, and so do you. So what you need to do is have an account that is your development account. And not because I want you to spend more money, but to understand that if cash stays still, you stay still. So you always need to be spending and reinvesting it. Okay? Always need to be investing in. What you invest in depends on your personal goals and your family goals and your legacy goals, whatever that may be. And if I did have time to sit down with every one of you and have a one-to-one with you, we could figure that out. Okay? So we don't have time for that. If you are serious about it, you can message me on LinkedIn and we can have we can grab a coffee and talk more about that. However, this is the podcast, right? This goes out to how many followers do we have on it now? I'm just looking at the stats. Yeah, over 1,000 followers. Yeah. So what I can do for you right now is this is an education piece, okay? And not just an education piece, but to get you thinking a little bit differently. That's what these podcasts do. Get you thinking a little bit different each week. There's 2 episodes that go out on YouTube and Spotify. Get you thinking a little bit different, even if there's just that one little gold nugget in it. Yeah. Like I said earlier on, think cash flow, right? Cash must flow. If you're going to be wealthy, cash must flow. So what are you holding on to lately? What are you thinking that you're going to do with this savings? Do you think it's just going to sit there and you're going to save and save and save? Let me tell you, You can keep money in your savings account, right? If you're on a £30,000 a year job, $50,000 a year job, $100,000 a year job, it's not going to work for you. You're not going to achieve your life goals by thinking that way. And now that's very opposed to what I was saying about the 100K club, but that's just the minimum performance. Go into the 100K club and you'll start to realize that this isn't everything. What you actually be doing is then just chasing money. That's not the point. You need to think about how you multiply your money. And the first step into multiplying money is by learning the skills, not just learning the skills, but learning from others that are doing it and going there. Or maybe just those few steps ahead so they're still relatable. What I mean by that is if you go and listen to somebody who's a billionaire and you're not a millionaire yet, they'll be talking about how to make their billion, not how to make their million. So listen to the people that are just those few steps ahead of you. Okay? So what are you going to do with this information I'm giving you today? Have you got your savings account set up correctly? Is it giving you the right interest? Do you need to shift it? Have you got an ISA set up? Is that ISA a savings ISA or is it an investment ISA? Yeah, big difference there. So you can invest in that money and start to multiply it. And number 3, do you have that third account where you accumulate a percentage of your income and you put it away so eventually you can spend it on a high value skill that will not only teach you how to make more money, but also put you in the right environment of people that can show you how to make more money? Just question that. What do you need to do with your savings and your bank accounts and your different accounts that would help you become a lot more successful in what you do? Not just successful, because that can mean a lot of different things, but make a lot more money in the meantime as well. We are the A Players podcast. We are the 100K Club. Yeah. We're here to make that difference. So it's okay to talk about finances. Cut that rubbish out. Finances make a difference. Don't just think about saving, ladies and gents. Think about how you use your cash flow to make more. If you can crack that, then you're going to start to multiply your income each year. Be great.